You did what? My mother's shocked voice demanded loudly. I fidgeted between the covers that I'd fashioned into a makeshift shelter, hiding my growing embarrassment from her critical gaze. Deep down I felt a cold dread, the likes of which was slowly spinning into something greater the longer I withheld the truth. It had spawned the moment she realized what it was that I had done. After that, I just tried to hide from her, despite the fact I knew she was stood right over me. Astral fire, my mother demanded impatiently, her hoof tapping upon the hard metal floor of the train car we called home. My eyes opened, only to find the warm darkness of the covers pressed against my muzzle. Strangely as bad as I felt, and as much as I knew I was going to get into a lot of trouble for being so reckless, I was smiling. Rebelliously? Perhaps. I was certainly felt slightly rebellious. Yet, it was more of a satisfied feeling than anything else. As for what I'd done, well, but my mom, me and Dodge love each other, and him and his brothers are teaching me some really neat stuff, I whined, lifting my head from the covers. My mother's name was Dragonfire. She was a dark blue unicorn mare with a light cyan mane and a yellow cutie mark shaped like the insect with which she shared her name. She was wearing an old pip buck on her left foreleg, and it looked like if she'd been slapped across the face by my response. A part of me just wanted to laugh. I couldn't tell whether her lost expression was because of my confusion or my smile. Either way, I knew I was in for it the moment her eyes narrowed. So, you? Astral, you're 12, she stuttered, her shark hindering her ability to shout. You don't even have your cutie mark yet, she added, her anger besting her surprise as she glanced to where my blank flank lay beneath the tattered covers. I wondered how angry she'd be if I'd gotten my cutie mark for what I'd done. I even asked myself what a cutie mark in such a field would even look like. The more I thought about it, the more I was confused as to whether it would be a good thing to have on my rump for the rest of my life or not. I told you that I don't want you hanging around with those pyromaniacs anymore, and now you've gone and... Astrofire, are you even listening to me, Missy? You better be, my mother hissed, snatching back my attention with a sharp glare. Er, yeah, Mom, I'm lusting. I mean, listening. I'm listening, I stammered clumsily, then blushed nervously. As expected, her frown deepened and her sharp eyes seemed to blaze with anger. Wow, I really was a bucked up filly. But, hey, the world around me was no better, I thought to myself. Nevertheless, my mother tried to keep the wasteland out of my foalhood, and by extension any pony who lived in it, best she could. At that moment my mother's muzzle opened. My ears and eyes fell as I realized just how much trouble I could be in. Damn it, Brain! And your sudden obsession with the local cults. Screw you for even getting me into this mess in the first place. It's not me that likes Dodger's rear end, it's you, you buck you, Brain, I mentally cursed. Yet, as the long moments of my internal conflict passed, no words came from either of us. I cautiously raised one eye to see my mother shaking her head disapprovingly, confused as to why I was spared her anger. I looked about for anything that may have changed her opinion. Nothing but the bed, a dresser, and doors surrounded us in this rusty old train car. The thing was our home, for now. We didn't exactly hang about in one place for too long, though. My mom's job required us to be flexible with where we lived. Wait, Mom's job! My ears perked up at that thought. Hey Mom, you can't say anything. You're with Bucks all the time. In fact, I have even seen you with some mares, I stated bluntly. The blue unicorn's expression turned from anger to confusion, not to mention a hint of embarrassment and untimely shame as she stammered. No, no! Astral, that's different. That's... She stopped, taking a breath. I have to do that or we won't have any place to live. We'd find ourselves with no food and no water, she explained, waving a hoof gesturing toward the train car's interior. My eyes followed her hoof like it was some irresistible lure, and when she finally turned it friendly to the floor, I found my gaze locked upon her. That's no reason for you to go about doing the same thing, though. I try my best to give you a life that you can live with, pride, honor, and dignity. Not for you to go around, well, doing it, she stated firmly. I winced, leaning back. Well, when you say did it, we didn't actually do anything, so I explained, hoping the fact would dismiss her anger and we could be friends again. Instead, she just scowled. Actually, you know I've not been feeling well lately, and yet you still put me through this? I'm doing what I do. I sully my body, soul, and self-esteem because I'm trying to give you a better life. And this is how you thank me? She stated, looking back at me over her shoulder, for a moment before she turned towards the door. Okay, this was new. She wasn't shouting. So why did her words make me feel so horrible? Yeah, she was ill. She'd been throwing up a lot for weeks now. Not to mention she was more angry than usual. I made this sound like if anger was another mood swing? If so, I just hope it kept back her wrath long enough for her to forget the whole thing. As my thoughts went on my mother's side wearily. Let's go to the clinic. You stay here and think about what you did, or you can come with me, she told me, trying to the door. I swallowed, wrapping the sheets around my legs and staying up as if they would somehow anchor me to the mattress. The thing threatening to take me away eluded me, however. A deep, silky feeling in my chest that told me what I'd done was wrong. I'm feeling okay. I don't need to go to the clinic, I muttered, my rebellious tone edging away. My mother raised an eyebrow curiously. Actually, that's not why I meant. I felt myself slowly slip down onto the bed, resting my head against the pillows, turning away from my mother. Why did it make me feel so empty? I haven't done anything other than sleep on the same sheet as him. No, it wasn't the fact that it was making me feel this way. It was my mother's words and her tone, the elusive implication I failed to understand. But, for whatever reason, I was almost crying. All of a sudden the room filled with a dull blue glow and the covers swiftly slid over me. Hey, you're a big grown-up feeling now, and I know stuff like this happens. But no matter what, I still love you. I heard the soothing tone of my mother wrap over me like a second blanket. One of the more of an unfathomably greater warmth and protection. I felt as if I could write out a mega spell within its loving cocoon. It was the height of hubris to think like that. I know. I didn't feel like I needed a bunker or a stable to keep the wasteland away. I just needed the sound of her kind voice. I shuffled about in the blankets as I heard the door to the train car open. I felt the dull light slip in. I love you too, Mom, I mumbled from under the blankets as she left. The warm blackness divided into a horizontal horizon, revealing a slightly less dark, blankness. Then my eyes closed again, returning to the previously darker gloom. Wow, was that a strange full hood dream? I've not had one of those in a while. I might have thought upon that nostalgic idea more clearly had I been in the last half-decent state. But as evident by my returning senses, I was far from presentable. My head throbbed, my ears rang with even the slightest hum of the water pipes, and my muscles were no less stiff than rusted metal around me. But I was so warm, so comfy, content. My body was alive with a pleasurable buzz, and I was still exceedingly satisfied. It may have been hungover as frick, but last night was one to remember. I could remember it, right? I thought, urgently searching through the blurred memories. Yeah, there it was. I sighed in relief as I recalled the Star Strike. I had no idea whether it was the prospect of 50,000 caps, or just the fact that I was an extremely attractive sex machine that could never be tamed. But still had broken me good. With that, I curled my hooves up to my chest, pulling my cover over myself tightly. Perfect. Not close to perfect. This was perfection, I mentally stated. A moment later, I turned to where the gray stallion had finally given up on its late night siege. I didn't open my eyes. All I wanted was my buck. I gave a satisfied whinny, reaching out a hoof over to the cold, empty bed sheets. Wait, empty? My eyes reluctantly priced apart. Okay, ambient and red glow? Too bright. Despite that, my mind raced it with thoughts. Where is he? That wasn't the question I asked often, on account of how frequently I would pick up cute mirrors and one-night stands. Ugh, just shut up, brain, I groaned, giving a dissatisfied grunt. The persistent nagging at my mind shattering my horny buzz. Using the same hoof that had been dispatched to the far side of the bed, I dragged myself over to the edge of the bed. The spot where I had scooted off the bed was still slightly warm, I noted as I settled. Where the heck is he? My mind cried again like I was some lost puppy abandoned in the middle of nowhere. As I stared at the bedside desk, the question of where he was repeated more times than Rapid's limited assortment of records. With another lazy groan, I sprawled out my hooves and stretched my aching muscles. Well, at least that felt good, I thought, finally sitting up. Moments later, I realized just how much of a bad idea that was. Immediately, my head began to pulse and throb like a Zebrakin war beat thanks to my hangover. A moment later, I pressed my hooves to the ringing ears in a futile attempt to make the world stop spinning. I sat there for a long moment trying to squint past the dull red glow of the industrial lighting. Where's my bug? I moaned, beating my forehead against the mattress like some spoiled foal. After another long moment of nursing my frustration of waking up to an empty bed once again, I finally stood up on my own four hooves. Not a bad idea, I realized as I crumpled to the floor and the world spun like crazy. As I waited for reality to stop spinning, I looked to my right. Down on the small metal cabinet at Star's bedside was a note. A note? That's all that he can give me? I grumbled to myself, pouting. Ran a sigh, I picked up the tattered paper. It was faded and worn, just like any other form of parchment in the Wasteland. The writing wasn't much to smile about either. It was badly scrawled, and the moisture in the air hadn't done it any favors. Am I an Earth Pony? I mused. But I know which one. Hi. Dragon gone to get barding cleaning supplies. Would have welcomed you, but you look too adorable. XXX. I felt my playful frustration shimmer to boiling point at the word adorable. Not to mention the school filly kisses. The irritatingly affectionate words were followed closely by, get your guns and get your hangover taken care of. See you later today for the payload. I groaned at the fact that it wasn't my irresistible beauty that motivated him to sleep with me last night. Then glimpsed something besides where the note had been left. Radiator me and his portable stove. I sighed wearily. Okay, so maybe my bug wasn't that bad after all. A few hours later, I found myself looking down at my workbench, focusing my slowly detoxifying brain into action. Broken gun parts and spark ammunition looked back, each one seemingly eager to be put to use. I found my pit bug sitting toward the back, beneath the shelf upon which I kept everything I needed in order to maintain it. Mostly tools and books I had salvaged from an abandoned stable a few years back. Those that had been handed down to me, or the occasional useful item looted from corpses. Notably, it had not been where I always left it. Yet, I suppose I could attribute that to the state in which I arrived after yesterday, as there seemed to be nothing wrong with it, nothing apparent anyway. Beside it were a few gems as well as an equally rough copy of applied gemstones and various used and worn old rifle parts, all of which were dusted with a fine coat of pink ash. I just finished putting one gun back together after giving it a well-deserved cleaning. It was by far my favorite, the closest thing to a full I could have. Magical energy rifle. Or was it a magical energy shotgun? No, to say it was a normal variant of either. I tinkered with it a lot. I mean a lot. It had been taken apart and put back together over 100 times. I thrown in some more spark batteries, modified the gem matrix, and fitted the beam with spinning lenses so that it fired into extra prisms. Assembling it all together got me a pretty deadly light show. In fact, now that I thought about it, the thing was a magical energy shotgun, only with a little scatter and the effective range of a rifle. I like to call it a saddle blaster, despite the fact that it had nothing to do with saddles, battle saddles, or a similar entity of any aside from its holster. But what else was I going to call it? Beamy? Metal Blaster? Super, Mega, Ultra Blaster of Lasered Immolation? No, I had an imagination, that's why I used energy weapons over anything that used bullets. All those boring ponies with their shotguns, carbines, and brush guns, they had nothing on my magic. The way I saw it, a magical unicorn used magical guns. I certainly like to see a bullet turn a raider into pink dust, or a standard rifle liquefy a blood sprite. Speaking of liquefaction, I had my twins, a pair of slightly less modified magical plasma rifles. All I managed to do with them as of late was up the rate of fire, and I still had to increase the clip size to compensate. Last was my oldest of my projects, a modified magical energy pistol. I'd had the thing for even longer than my pit bug, ever since I was a little filly. Back then I liked to call the thing Zap. Zap due to the amazing sound it made before turning some pony to dust. And trust me, they were always turned to dust with this baby. Even some of mine snickered at the idea. Okay, so what if I modified the heck out of my guns and they were less popular? I hissed at my condescending brain as it challenged my idea of what images of many times I've seen bullets kill a pony. Besides, if fewer ponies used them, then that made ammo more available at shops. Sort of. There! How do you like that, you psychopathic jerk? I mentally snapped. Besides, I found spark batteries on my bounty hunter jobs. Raiders always had random hoof full of scrap and slavers had slightly more organized loads of scrap. Then there were the Enclave. Yet I had to admit the Picket side were far more worthy opponents. Their shy was hard won. On top of their magical laser show I was packing, I also had several grenades. I carried two of my magical energy grenades and one matrix disruption device I kept handy for all of those frickin' robots we'd inevitably run into. Add to that my magic, which was far more than simple levitation. I mean, come on, I'm not a filly. High quality barding laced with dragon scales, and you had yourself a battle-ready mercenary, purely my own style. Every one of us had one. It's what separated the rookies from the battle-hardened merc. At the thought of the others, I was reminded that I still hadn't seen stars since last night. Even so, that train of thought had mostly been stolen when I smelt my room. It was then that I seen my dirty bed, slip cover, and blankets. Really? Was it too hard for Marcelin to clean my bed when he came down here to get my barding? I asked myself quietly. Regardless, I couldn't be angry with him. Instead, my mind formulated a swift idea. With a spark of my horn, the sheets were enveloped in a magic glow and quickly lifted from the bed. Steadily, I tried over the shower, throwing the sheets inside. We'd be gone for a few days, maybe a week, so it would be dry by the time we got back. That was all that went through my head as I turned the warm water on and dosed the filthy sheets in the steaming torrent. The foul brown mix of blood, dirt, and vomit swept from the dull white fabric and slowly fell away down the drain. I smiled happily before turning back to my workbench, leaving the water running. My weapons served no less love and affection, and soon they were all the spotless I could manage. Well, little guy, I'll be sure to see you get used this time. I told my pistol zap zap as if it were my own foal, turning the thing in my magic. Right, now I have to find some way to carry you all to the yard, I stated, turning to look around my room. Star had my barding, which meant he still had all the salvage mycel I left in my saddlebags. Like for him, those salvage bullet guzzlers were not anything special. Wait, no, he couldn't sell them. What was I worried about? I mean, if he did, then I'd be upset, then angry, then there'd be no fun. And I liked fun. I started lowering my head and ears a little. Then a cloud of steam hissed. My muzzle and I realized the cloud was leaking from the shower. A moment later, I found myself by the gushing hot torrent. The soaked bedding warped into some sort of strange blob on the tiles. Well, Star didn't exactly give me a time. Hell, I'll bet he thinks I'm still in his bed, I thought, raising a hoof to my muzzle. I smiled a little at that thought while retrieving the soggy mess from the water. The pile looked no better than the Raiders' display piece slapped down on the metal grill of the floor, and I stepped into the warm water's embrace. Ah, yeah, this was the life of a hard-working pony. Deserved. Not perfect, but so damn close. Once again, the warm deluge sweeping through my mane soothingly, smothering my coat in the steaming pleasure. I bowed my head, letting the smooth torrent embrace my face and horn. I was going to have 50,000 caps when I was next in here, or else I'd be dead. But that was a boring way of thinking. Death was nothing in Wasteland. The sooner a pony accepted that, the sooner they'd be Wasteland proof. So I like to call it. It was never a good idea to let the horror seep into your head because basically, everything has gone to shite. Don't do the same to every pony else, and most importantly, don't be a hero. My Celestia, I heard enough about those on the radio. The only good part is when they're finally learning to stop fighting, so I don't have to keep hearing those sob stories. Nevertheless, I wasn't completely against trying to make the world a better place. Maybe a mercenary, but I was all for protecting those who needed it. I saved ponies from slavers, raiders, and monsters without needing a paycheck before. I wasn't some pony who could just sit by and watch things like that happen if they were right in front of me. There's only one rule. It was a rule that ultimately defined me. Only kill monsters. It's okay to kill monsters. I had many a discussion with myself regarding the definition of the word monster. Too many times at gunpoint. A monster was something or even some pony who was doing what was wrong. There was no shortage of them out there, just like at Philadelphia. But it was me who ultimately had to make that decision. If some pony were a monster, they were dead. No sweat off my mane. But if they weren't, then they had nothing to hide from me. Then there was the blurs between the lines. Those made by definition monster waiver. My eyes sealed closed for a moment. My ears went numb to all but the water cascading smoothly over my face. I knew I only kill monsters, and it was okay to kill monsters. My horn flared brightly as the saddlebag levitated beside me. This wasn't my barding. In fact, I'd borrowed it from Lynx. A stallion lived a ways up from me in the industrial hall. At least every buck I knew seemed to owe me favors, and so did most mares. Nevertheless, I sat the saddlebag over my back and began pointing my guns to each with my magic while I fixed a pip bug to my left foreleg. Well, room, I called back to the shower, naked bed, and soaked sheets laying spread out on the floor. When I see you again, I'll be 50,000 caps richer. 25,000 actually, my mind reminded me. No, I bet I could get it to 26, depending on how I played my cards. One thing was for sure, this place was getting a renovation. Well, that was if I didn't blow it all on booze and good company. Regardless, I quickly slung to the large mill door open with my magic and leapt out into the corridor. 50,000 caps, 50,000 caps, 50,000 caps, I hummed to myself. The words played out rhythmically in my head as I trotted eagerly along the pipelined steam tunnel. My heels clopping against the metal to the beat of my mental song. A few moments later, I found myself beyond the steam tunnels and out in the reasonably fresh air of Churn. Water flowed freely from the broken pipes, and damn, ponies of all variants went out about their business. The shops were open, radiators snapping below, and Grail was locked up in the spit. The morning practically shimmered as I descended the mill stairs to the waterfront. There my hooves met the concrete canyon floor, and I trotted merrily to the crossing. Across the bridge, I could see several industrial sacks of supplies lingering just in the shadow of the surface elevator. The traders up top certainly had a good haul from town this week. I know as I glanced over the varied assortment of bags, crates, and metal barrels. Although they knew with some sunshine and it would be perfect. Shame that was impossible in the wasteland. I'd settle for what lay ahead and the cloudy sky instead. Star Trek was waiting by the elevator, speaking to the ship's operator. The short Earthplane was a yellow with brown mane. His steering right was a cog and lever. My buck towered over him like the ruins of a Manhattan skyscraper. After last night, the sight made me both a happy pony and slightly a horny mare. Upon hearing what must have been my hooves upon the metal frame of the waterway crossing, the pair turned. The sharp armored hide that was Star's darting rattled like a wall of animated steel as he did so. Atop his head, a horned helmet dwarfed the tiny thing I called my own. His huge battle saddle was what set us apart the most, however. On his left flank was a hulking minigun, its ammo chamber mounted on the left side of his back. On his right was a flamethrower, a fuel tank supported beside the minigun's ammo chamber in a similar manner. His saddlebags lay farther back than mine, covering his hunches. He said that was the only place they could go, but I was convinced it was because he didn't want me getting any free samples. Either way, his armor design was crude and barbaric. I mean, with horns like that on his head, I was surprised ponies didn't mistake him for a dragon or something. Then there was 5T used to be a battering ram. I still don't get that. No. When I was in battle, I conducted myself with swiftness and grace. It was only during a fight that I could use the latter of those two words while referring to myself. My energy weapons were far more elegant than a bullet-spitting rattler or a gas-guzzling flamer. Why, if he took just one round to the tank, he'd be a bonfire. Fortunately, said round would have a penetrate and extension of his armor to even scratch the fuel. If that weren't so, then I may have tried it once myself. It would be a great way to prove my way was better. I both scowled and smirked at that. No, I wouldn't hurt him. Not again anyway. We were a team. A tank and a magical energy-wielding pyromaniac. And we were a damn good pair. So I suppose I couldn't complain. I approached him while looking up at his armored face. Seems it didn't leave you unable to walk, the gray stallion snickered with a wry smile. I cocked an eyebrow before giving him a smug grin. Yeah, you wish. You got my stuff? I countered swiftly. He gave an amused grunt before gesturing back to the saddlebags. Yep, gear's all cleaned up. It's back in there, he told me, mentioning to his saddlebags with a nod. I continued to stare at him as I walked around. Wow, taunting me when I'm so close to your rear. Someone's like you. My expression fell as did my ears. Then I saw him smiling. Frickin' bucks! I stealthily pulled my barding from the sack with my magic. Sure enough, the smart light blue scale-coated barding greeted me. It took me a moment to remove Lynx's saddlebags and replace them with my own barding. Custom-made dragon claw knife, check. Full canteen, check. Short-range communications broadcaster, check. Twins on the left holster, saddle blaster on right, zapping back, check, check, check. I stationed my weapons before head counting them. Twice. Then I slapped a pair spare saddlebags onto stars. Who knows, it may be useful. And besides, Lynx's wasn't brave enough to ask for it back anytime soon. That done, I slipped on my helmet, sliding the custom glass of my visor up to space above my brow, temporarily deactivating the display. I then looked to my companion, the virtual wall of flesh, steel and guns he was, compared to the swept-scaled serpent with the nasty magical sting. You ready to get rich? Star asked. Really? Who did they think I was? Of course, my answer was, frick yeah, I'm ready. As usual, the elevator ride was painfully slow. The sounds of the according metal quite literally making it painful to endure. Yet, sure enough, we found ourselves back at the cliff top about a few weeks later, give or take. Regardless, here I was again, the Mojave Wasteland. After only a day of such close perfection, I had to admit it was a depressing sight. Still, I wasn't frustrated. Just sick of the endless expanse of scorched desert leading off over the bare hills in every direction. One of the few breaks in the haze rising from the sands was the distant green glow of the sheen in the northeast. The rest of the blasted view was broken only by smooth red rocks and mangled cacti. With a firm jolt, the elevators ground to a slow halt, signaling the end of our escalatory journey, silencing the horrible symphony of worn metal and grinding gears. "There you are," the elevator bug told us, taking a lever that held the platform aloft. I was first to get out the metal platform, happily avoiding the rocking as Star shifted his great weight from the rusty old metal. From up here, the town itself was almost invisible. The only indicators that civilization even existed out here in the vast stretches of nothingness were the crane and the tip of the spire's broadcast tower. The only other things that stand out from the dusty backdrop are the wind-blown tents and the trade caravans and the generators, all of which were rusted and half buried under the sand. Above, the tire remains of pylons haul many thick wires up from the mass of weathered metal, carrying them far across the desert to the north. To my left, the shattered railings of the dam were only just visible as the curved peak formed a bridge over the gorge, allowing the scorched remnants of a road beneath the breach. On the opposite side of the crossing, the lake stretched out towards the hazy horizon, a body of deep gloom that rippled and shivered in the dry wind as it crawled its way west towards the coast. Upon this far bank, beyond the distant side of the dam, the lake shore rose into a set of weathered cliffs. The huge walls of rock and sand staggered rarely in the desert heat. Atop them were the crooked bones of an old pre-war town. Most notable to me, however, was the mangled iron frame of which had been a water tower, the likes of which had been plunged into the deep murky depths of the lake. I'll admit, I had a lot to do with that. Opposite the cliffs, the lake side was a smooth, dusty beach littered with trash, bones, and the occasional small boat, all of which were as bone dry as the desert, slowly disintegrating into a harsh sand. Sure enough, when my eyes came back to where they fell upon Star, my ears perked at the hissing of worn machinery sounding, and once again the platform behind us disappeared over the cliff edge. "Guess you shook that good thing," I wittily commented. To my amusement, he just shrugged. "Yeah, you just leave the talking to the pretty one," I mentally noted, turning to the scorched asphalt leading away along the smooth shoreline. "So where are we heading?" I asked, keeping a steady pace at Star's side. The stallion's eyes tore from the heat-scorching desert to look down at me. Glenn's description puts this place a good few miles south of New Pegasus. "About 3 days across the desert on hoof," he answered, eyes moving back up to the horizon. For seasoned bounty hunters like us, New Pegasus was practically a stroll. Until I hated going close to NCR territory, it didn't seem that proximity to their turf was the reason for the amount of cash being offered for the completion of the job. Speaking of which, what does it say about the place? I asked, finishing for any preliminary information I could get before arriving at the location. Secretly, I really want to be a fluffy bunny factory or full of toothless radigators. Just something that was easier to shoot up. But in the Wasteland, such harmless things have probably become ravenous monsters. "I don't know much. Looks to me like some sort of pre-war research lab or something," Star replied, with his voice sounding nervous. "Great, those types of jobs were always fun. I got to see all the freaked up experience of a generation of ponies who just looked crazy in all its forms. Then there'd probably be some sort of damn security system, and if we were really lucky, some kind of eldritch abomination." I sighed, this time with a groan. My energetic buzz had all but evaporated into the scorched air. There was no chem in the wasteland that could make me feel that way again unless sex was a chem. And if it were the case, then I'd be all over it. Nevertheless, I'd done not more than enough of those jobs to know what I was getting into. And trust me, I knew what I was doing when it came to a cave full of mutes or some haywire Robronco factory. I used an energy gun and shot whatever the hell was trying to kill me. Even so, I turned my attention to the passing wasteland. Who knew? Maybe I'll see something to shoot or same rare threat just fallen out of the sky. But alas, there was nothing but the bones of trash upon the second lake shore. Broken shards of concrete and steel sat among the petrified remnants of ponies and all kinds of other held wasteland creatures. I'll admit at least a dozen of them were probably in my hoofwork. Raiders, slavers, and feral ghouls mostly. One, however, caught my eye. A horned skull, far larger than all the others, and still clinging to the last shred of its sand-bitten flesh. A long neck snaked down into the grim water. Its back rose from the stagnant filth just a few meters from the shore. Round its bony neck was a chain, the length of which was now slack and rusted, and it's curled across the dust before me. I didn't know whether looking at it made me feel proud, happy, or just meh. I'd only been doing my job. Okay, so that particular job was what gained me the most of my respect. Wow, Renator, you're looking worse for the wear, I snickered, passing the Atlas and Draconic skeleton casually. I heard Star's tired whining a moment later, and I could almost hear the grinding of his eyes as they rolled. This was Venator, what was left of him after I kicked his scaly tail. Doing anything out here wasn't easy, but I think I'd put myself on top the day I put those bones here. It was kind of funny. All I was doing was protecting Churn from an angry dragon that had dragged its starry tail up from somewhere in the mountains south of what was once the Equestrian border. I certainly wasn't the one who magically tied that chain around his neck and secure finally managed to shoot his left wing. Nor was I the pony who tied said chin to the water tower. Nor... Okay, I bet you can see where this is going. I sent that water tower over the cliff into the deep end of the lake, and he fell down with it. The rest was history. About a week later, the locals disassembled the crane and reworked it. We were able to drag what was left out of the lake. They wanted the scales, claws, anything that could sail. The scales were a light blue, I might add, the claws sharper than any traditional knife. Lost in Dragonfire again? Star's smug vocal tone shared my triumphant daydream. I shook my head, my brow furrowed and ears falling flat. Oh, I'm sorry. How did you get in? I barked. He gave a proud smile. Oh, you know, 715 folds will earn a lot of folks' respect. I sighed. Okay, he saved some fillies and colts, but so had I. I mentally tried to count how many folds I had saved as I searched through my memory. 1, 2. Damn, there were only 14 folds in the churn the day I killed the dragon. I swiftly kicked the thoughts from my mind so not to continue the topic. Otherwise, Star may be going on about how I didn't strictly kill the dragon alone. As my mind moved away, so too did the dried dragon bones. Soon the south cliffs disappeared into the hazy horizon too, having nothing to focus on but the endless expanse of either grey water, dark, overcast sky, parched sand, or the almost unbearable heat of my burning roasting me. I swiftly remembered my mind and went back to Rabbit's radio broadcast. While we were far away from the heart of the trouble, she mentioned in the east, she said something about Bucktown. Now, taking another willing sip of water from my canteen, I remembered the small settlement. I knew of it quite well, and I also knew it was not far from here. I really didn't want to think what might have transpired there. Part of me even contemplated taking a route that wouldn't take us through that area. Yeah, I knew that wasn't a good idea for various reasons. Instead, I just set my watchful gaze sandy horizon, as if patiently fishing for trouble. A few miles of trying later, the featureless horizon was no more. Hey, keep your eyes open in there, I told Star warningly as we found ourselves staring at surroundings that were more than just simmering sand. Besides the threat of attack by gods know what may be lurking ahead, I was almost glad. Looking over the endless expanse of desert for so long had made me mind-numbingly bored. Besides, the wind-blown sand was not the best travel companion. It was irritating when it got under me I already uncomfortably not hot barring. Not that the environment before us is any better. The edge of the once buzzing community grew like withered branches from what was left of the desert road. The outermost buildings were scorched husks, almost completely consumed by banks of sand. Yet the inner skeleton of crumbling town presented a very drastic change in scenery. Star stopped as the asphalt under her hoof disappeared beneath cracked dirt and eventually thick, muddy sludge. "What now?" I asked, stopping beside him. I looked over the vaguely visible road between the ruins ahead. As far as I could see, there was no pony around. The ruins had long since been picked by Karen scavengers looking for some quick caps. Then there was a actual carrion who picked up on the bones of those that didn't make any caps on the count of being killed by said dangerous edivores. In there, the desert sands became a cracked mess of dry dirt. A few hoof steps later, it was warped, then more, becoming gnawed by vicious wet sludge. The parched desert dipped slightly, only to be replaced by the foamy brown soup. Great, from one extreme to the other. Frick you, Wasteland. I hissed mentally, strangely imaging the entity that was the fricked up apocalypse answering back. It was the same over joyful voice of Foggy, no less. God, I really hate that robot. I added begrudgingly while trying not to think about how refreshing potentially cool water could be after so long in this weathering heat, no matter how disgusting a state it was in. Above the shower buildings to the far right of us, another sagging mud bank allowed the burst remains of several rusted sewage pipes to spew their foul content into the already sickly water. In fact, it was as if the whole town, that rusted old sign above us, had once proclaimed Mostren, sunk into the soft sands only to be flooded by the nearby lake. Star seemed unfazed by the sight of the water. He said he was eyeing over the upper ruins cautiously. I was guessing, despite my warning, he heard the radio too, but I didn't say anything, and yes, before some smug voice in my head reminded me that there might be something in the water I was aware of, thank you. I was on edge. Becoming a slave was not on the top of my to-do list. It was admittedly below getting captured by raiders, but no pony wanted that. Regardless, I wasn't going to give any pony a chance to allow either possibility or transpire. "We going around?" I asked casually, motioning to the north of the nod. Even so, if we went that way, we'd have to cross the Sandmane River, not to mention it would take us dangerously close to the Sheen. I recoiled slightly as I realized that I didn't want drowning or gullification to be on my to-do list either. "No, we're going through. Head for Buck before nightfall," Star said firmly. "Right, that settles it," I told myself as my mind tried to warn me about things I knew to be blandly obvious. "Wait, you were planning on staying the night in a town that has apparently been attacked by raiders recently? You're also planning to simply trying through their territory?" My mind questioned, growing even more patronizing. "Ah, traps, slavers, monsters." I sighed. It was a question of risk no matter where you were in a wasteland. Besides, it wouldn't be a problem for you, Brain, because I wouldn't have any second thought about killing any of the things you just listed, especially the latter. As for traps, well, they usually took care of themselves. Nevertheless, as relaxed as I may be, the thoughts were enough to provoke me to drop my visor and draw my blaster warningly. If any pony or anything crept up on me, they'd be highlighted long before they had a chance to do anything more. Unless they came from behind, above, or below. Oh, from behind that wall, my mind added smugly. Admittedly, it could not see through walls like its original counterpart. Not that any of that stopped me, nor did it make the disgusting sensation of becoming knee-deep in foul sludge any more appealing. I was sure that only about 1% of the brown piss was actually water. The rest just sucked at my hoods like a vacuum. I'd half a mind to crawl onto Star's back again, recalling how pleasurable it felt last night. He was certainly making this look easier than I was. Even with the weight of his armored battle saddle, his taller frame held him higher above the stinking sludge. Worse still was the fact that I just had this damn stuff cleaned. I fell into a sulking morbidity as I continued to fight the festering liquid underhoof. Goddess, at least let me kill something before you make me trudge through all this shite, I groused mentally, that irritating entity that was the Wasteland laughing all the while. Yet just like that, the foul shite hole that was the world seemed to oblige. There was a sharp ping and something rang off the hard surface of my dragon-scaled armor, followed momentarily by another. Instinctively and somewhat eagerly, I brought up my saddle blaster and spun as fast as the mud would allow. My eyes fixed on the crumbling door, from which the shot had originated. I knew it wasn't a bullet, but I knew that the moment it hit me, bullets had at least ticked. No. This was pathetic. The buzzing desert blood sprite didn't seem to agree. Instead, the bobbing creature continued to fire its futile horns. I glanced to start. No way I was allowing him to unleash the thunder of his battle saddler on such a pathetic thing. That's kinda adorable. The sound of his guns would most likely bring every raider within 100 miles down on our heads. Please allow me, I stated elegantly, bowing as another futile ping bounced from my scales. Then with a silent whoosh, a bobbing hunk of tainted meat was no more than ash in the thick mud. Satisfied, I set the blaster back into its holster casually. I think you overdid it, Star joked, drawing a disapproving scowl from me. Well, at least I didn't have the whole freaking wasteland on our trail with my giant guns, I countered resentfully. Star actually shut up at that. I mean, well, that was easy. Yeah, my guns were better, quieter, and... My proud thoughts were interrupted by Bang. Oh, frick you, Wasteland.